So we've seen the 5 basic operators in action. Now the biggest used operator of all that is the plus, and there are quicker ways of handling the plus. We need to look at the start of dealing with functions within Excel. Taking our math sample C file and looking at the functions sheet, you'll see we've got a little mini table of sales information for cars, planes and bikes in 4 different regions, and then a list of sales. Now if we wanted to add this information up, we might add a tag here for total, and then to add the cars up, knowing what we know already, we could say equals that cell plus that cell plus that cell plus that cell, and then return, and there's the result, 2412. Now that works. It is, however, a little bit long-winded, and if you think about putting that here to add these up, it's going to be even longer. Equals I2 plus I3 plus I4. So there must be a shorter way. When dealing with consecutive cells, there is a way of telling Excel that you're dealing with effectively what is a range. So if we want to tell it to do something to this range here, we want it to go from the first cell to the last cell and all cells between inclusive. And we can say B2 colon B5. And that's how we would tell Excel to deal with a range. And you can see quite happily it highlights that range. If we press return, however, we get a hash value, because what we haven't done is we haven't told it what to do with the range. But I'd like to add it up. So after my equals, because I'm still carrying out a mathematical command, I put sum equals sum, and you can see a little drop list appears of lots of functions. The sum is the one I'm after, so I open my bracket, then I put my range in, which I've already got, and I go to the end and I close the bracket. Now you can actually miss off the close bracket and just press return, and you'll see that we get the same result as we did when we said that equals B2 plus B3 plus B4 plus B5. But instead we're using the sum function. Equals sum, open brackets, the range of cells we wish to add up, and they must be a consecutive range of cells, and then close bracket. So I could do the same with my planes. Equals sum, open brackets. Once you've opened the brackets, you can then use the mouse to highlight the range and return. And that one adds up to 116. It's the same for the bikes. Equals sum, open brackets, highlight the range. Even if I go backwards, return, and I get 2420. Now the sum function for consecutive cells doesn't have to be adding up vertically. It can add horizontally. So I could go here. Perhaps I want to add up some totals for each of the regions, so the North region, for example. Equals sum, open brackets, that range, so those 3 cells there, B2 colon D2. Sum, B3 colon D3. Equals sum, open brackets, highlight the range, close brackets. Equals sum, open brackets, highlight the range, and return for the last one. The columns and rows will add consecutive cells, so that all of the column cells and all of the row cells, regardless of whether there's any content. The range adding is not restricted to a vertical or a horizontal range. It could add up an area of cells. So if I said equals sum here, wishing to add up all the totals, I could highlight all the cells in the middle, so B2 to D5. So I tell it the top left-hand corner cell, the bottom right-hand corner cell, with a colon in between tells it what range to pick up, and then the sum tells it to add up that range, so that we have a grand total of 4948. So that's the sum function, the most used function, the starting point for your functions within Excel. If I take my sales column, because the sum function is the most used one, we're given a little icon, which is this little Greek symbol here. What you can do with that is put your cursor at the bottom of a column. Now I know I could type here, equals sum, open brackets, I2 colon I13, and it would add up that range for me. What I could do is save myself some typing, place my cursor at the bottom of that column, go up to the sigma, and just click. And what it does is it puts in an auto sum function, which is effectively the same as me typing equals sum, open brackets, I2 colon I13. And you can see that's what it's put into the cell. And the formula is added in. Obviously I can double click and get in and make any changes should I need to alter the range, but it will quite happily pick up a column of numbers by simply placing your cursor in the bottom and clicking the auto sum button. which then puts in for you equals sum, open brackets. All the cells above it that it can see that contain some numbers. It has a little drawback. If I delete what I've done there, if I lose a number in the middle of the range and come to the bottom, auto sum, it only auto sums as far as the gap. It doesn't pick up the whole column. So it's just a little caveat to be careful of there. In which case it's safer to highlight all of the cells, including the empty one, and then auto sum. The formula is then placed at the bottom of that column. So you've started now using functions in Excel. With the basic sum function, it simply adds up a range of numbers.